Hey guys, here's another one of the toys I picked up recently. It's a Detrola PeeWee Portable radio. What this is a small, simple, battery-powered radio. You can see the chassis is quite small up here. That's why they call it a PeeWee, and they call it a portable because it ran on batteries. And batteries only. This is not an AC/DC, so it's strictly batteries only. They would have used batteries something like this. In fact, I bet this plug even would fit on this guy. This is the filament supply, 1.5 volts. And the other wire goes to a 90 volt battery. This is a 67.5, but I imagine the 90 volt battery was something like this too. Both these batteries are long dead. I was given them by a guy. Bought some other stuff from me, just threw those in for free. Thought I might find them interesting. I know there's a guy out there, battery maker, who makes reproduction batteries, and maybe I'll be asking him to make me a set if I can get this radio working. 1.5 batteries aren't so bad. You can just hook up D cells or a few D cells in parallel to make a 1.5 volts with sufficient current. 90 volts? Simplest way, I suppose, is to get all 10 9-volt batteries and hook them all together. A little bit expensive, though. What I'm going to do, though, is just use a lab bench power supply hiding down there, Hewlett-Packard. Dual supply, 0 to 50 volts. I can hook them in series to give me 0 to 100 volts. So that should work out fine. The radio is covered with, I think it's something they call Tolex, which is kind of like wallpaper. I'm missing the back, but I have seen a picture online, and it's a pretty simple thing, just like some masonite with holes drilled in it. That should be easy enough to reproduce. Likewise, the leather handle's long gone, but I can rig up something for that. Really, the only bad thing is that one of the knobs is missing, as usual. But I'll contact my usual sources, and hopefully somebody's got one. This knob is power. I kind of like the action on this. There's a silver circle here. When you turn the radio on, it just turns to red, which is the mechanical operation. The little disc behind that window. Important to know if you leave it on, because you're going to drain your batteries, and that's no fun. And then it's the volume control. And the other missing knob here is the tuning. The action's nice and smooth on that. I'll pop this open and give you a closer look at the chassis. And here we are. Speaker's in excellent condition. In fact, this whole radio is in really good condition, aside from the frayed wires going to the battery. I don't think anybody's ever monkeyed with this. Maybe never took it out of the case since it was made. No repairs, no replaced caps, nothing like that. It's all original. Just 4 tubes. That's all they needed. Kind of like an All-American 5, with the 5th tube being the AC rectifier, which of course you don't need, so it's just 4 tubes. Something a little bit different too, if you've never worked on a battery set, is that all the tubes start with the number 1. So whereas you might see something like a 6V6 output tube, this is be like a 1V6, or this is a 1C5. The 1 meaning it was a 1.5 volt filament, basically. Kind of unusual looking tubes too. They're taller and skinnier. I'm not quite sure why. It might have been just the nature of how they had to make, had to run the filaments to run on lower voltages. I'm not sure. But at any rate, I thought it was kind of a neat thing. Actually, the reason I bought this is I thought it looked kind of sad sitting on eBay with no bids. It was only $5, so I figured, what the heck. Normally I only do Philcos, RCAs, and 1 Admiral, so this is something completely different for me. I have heard of Detrola though, and I know there are some people who are quite fond of that, so I was able to find a bunch of resources online to find out more about this radio, including the model number, which was not marked anywhere. That took a little bit of detective work. It is actually a Model 2A2, I found out in the end. So I went to Nostalgia Air website and downloaded the schematic for a Model 2A2. But unfortunately, like you do find now and then, the scanned schematic was really unreadable. Luckily though, I went to my most often needed schematics, This is a compendium of both radio and TV schematics. They would come out with a volume every year by the Beatman Publishing Company. I think they started in '29. I know they went into the 60s and maybe the 70s. I've got a fairly complete set from about 29 to 63, I think. At any rate, I looked in here under Detrola, and bam, there's the 282 along with 4 other models all crammed onto one page. It seems like the older models and the less popular models, they would really skimp on the info. So they actually crammed 4 sets into one page. And here's the 282. Still kind of small, so what I did is I scanned it and then doubled the size, printed out landscape, and now I've got this to work off of. Some of these values are still a little hard to read. Like that, I'm not quite sure, maybe 200K. But I do have the original value parts, so of course I can look at those and maybe read the values off of that. Some of these values seem kind of crazy too, like a 20M, I don't know if that means it's a 20 mega ohm resistor. 2 meg. I guess because this is battery power, they would try to use a high value resistor as they get away with to reduce the current draw. So I figured with this being so easy, there's only, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 capacitors in here. Well, what the heck, I might as well give this a shot at recapping right now. Before I do though, I'm going to check some of these tubes, because if they're shot, there's really not much point in me continuing until I can locate some replacements. So I'm going to go get my tube tester. Okay, I pulled out my triplet 3413, my favorite all-around quick and dirty tube tester. H circuit 2, filament 1.4, C load 37, up 3, 4, 5, and down 7. Pop it into the octal socket. It can be hard to see the filament glowing in these tubes because they are low power. Oh, I can see it. Turn off the lights, maybe you can too. Very, very faint. I don't think my camera can even pick that up. It is glowing. So, how about that? Nice and strong. Alright, I'll check the other 3 tubes. Hopefully they'll be just as good. Good news, all 4 tubes test fine. So I'm going to proceed with a recap. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 old paper caps and 1 electrolytic, which when I expected closer, I saw that it was actually an old replacement, which isn't too surprising because these are always the first to go, the old electrolytics. So I pulled out some appropriate replacements here. The only odd thing I found is that there's actually a 6th paper cap on the schematic, another 0.05 200 volt cap right here, which I do not see anywhere in the set, nor do I see any traces of a cap that was clipped out, so I'm just going to go with what I can see. It's not unheard of for there to be differences between the actual item and the schematic. They did make production changes over time. So I'm going to put these in and let's see if this radio works.